Is the High Republic actually an empire? Now this thought or question has been bugging me as I read through all the different High Republic stories. As we all know, during the High Republic era, the Republic is expanding like never before, bolstering its ranks with newer systems beyond the core, and it really begs the question whether or not this expansion is just another form of imperial colonialism. Well, to understand what makes an empire, we need to dive a little bit deeper into real-world politics and history. Contrary to common belief, an empire doesn't actually need an emperor to become an empire. What really makes it an empire is in its actions in relation to interstate politics and the ways of subjugation of people not considered to be its original citizens. Additionally, this also means that an empire could also be a democracy. Both are not mutually exclusive. Now, if you're a student of history or politics, you'll know that during the age of colonial empires, there were plenty of examples that we can look at for colonial and imperial expansion, whether it's the British, the French, or the Japanese Empire. And alongside such expansion, it involved the subjugation and eradication of many different groups of people all around the world. The ideology of imperialism is to extend imperial rule over other people for greater political and economic access to build power and control. And the way in which this control is extended can arise from a multitude of different ways, such as through political or economic pressure. So let's see if the High Republic exhibits any of these qualities for it to warrant a label as a colonial empire. So it's pretty difficult to draw parallels between these empires and the expansion of the High Republic, especially given that the High Republic doesn't really have an army to enforce its expansion, besides a loose coalition of Republic defense forces composed of volunteers and contributions from various different planets within its influence. Furthermore, the High Republic, as far as we can tell, doesn't have an active policy of subjugating people outside its influence. Additionally, the migration of settlers outwards towards the Outer Rim does not appear to be supported directly by the High Republic government. While these settlers who leave and begin to establish settlements in roles that may already be inhabited, there doesn't appear to be a concerted political effort for the High Republic to expand its influence through this method. So from this front, it's pretty difficult to say that the expansion of the High Republic reflects the expansion of an empire. Now, you might say that from the perspective of the Nile, the High Republic is encroaching on their territory, so therefore, it's actually an empire. Well, this would be an overly simplistic understanding of the relationship between the Nile and the High Republic, and how the Nile governs its own territory if it has any. You see, the Nile are much more nomadic. They do not, as far as we can tell, develop standing rules of governments or institutions in any of the worlds they take over. In fact, any conquest that they embark on is more of a raid. And so when the Nile attack, it's more of a hit and run, as well as to extort whatever settlement they come across. In that sense, they have no form of permanent territory. Furthermore, the territory in which they hunt in consists of planets with their own forms of government that do not recognize the Nile as legitimate rulers and often find themselves in conflict with the Nile. As such, the High Republic, while it may be encroaching on the hunting grounds of the Nile, isn't encroaching on its territory in the strictest sense. So in that regard, it isn't really a form of traditional imperial expansion. Well, what about the Jedi Order? The Jedis present a very interesting case study simply because it reflects both the will of the High Republic and the will of the Jedi Order as a separate entity. In many ways, the Jedis are an extension of the military and political arm of the High Republic. It acts as its enforcers and soldiers in the Battle of Kur against the Nile, and it helps provide aid on behalf of the Republic during the Great Disaster. The Jedi Order has also exhibited a willingness to exert authority and strength in situations where there is a vacuum of power, as we see in the Amaxine space station where the Jedis exerted authority to maintain the peace. But there is a more subtle and powerful way in which the Jedi Order has helped enforce the expansion of the High Republic, and this leads me to the next point. While the High Republic may not exhibit traditional notions of imperial colonialism, there may be a way in which the High Republic can still actually be an empire. Unlike the traditional notions of colonialism and imperialism, modern-day or Neo-Colonialism involve much subtler ways of expansion. Neo-Colonialism, which is often a practice used by great powers today to enforce and expand a state's power and security, often appears through economics, globalization, cultural imperialism, or conditional aid. Instead of expanding or imposing controls through military means or indirect political control, Neo-Colonialism attempts to develop relationships with other states that make them more subservient or highly dependent on the imposing state. So, in what way does the High Republic exhibit these tendencies? The Republic consistently offers aid to worlds in crisis outside its influence. The provision of aid and what kind of aid it is very important to consider. In a real-world context, the provision of aid has long since been a political tool for great powers to entice smaller countries to become more politically and economically dependent. This dependency is especially cultivated in the form of conditional aid, whereby a set of conditions have to be met in order for a particular country to receive aid. So you can see how this allows for great powers to set certain kinds of conditions that may increase the dependency of the country receiving aid. Although as far as we can tell, the aid provided by the High Republic is not conditional. While it does appear that the aid offered by the High Republic is conditional-free, it still has a dependency effect on the system involved. When the High Republic provides aid to other worlds, the economy and political scene may become heavily dependent on the Republic for survival. This is known as the aid trap. As we see plenty of times in African countries, foreign aid hasn't always had the intended effect of bettering the lives of people. Instead, the opposite effect occurs, whereby the local economies are reliant on a steady injection of aid in order to keep it going. Those with political power in turn become reliant on the aid in order to stay in power. So this is entirely possible that the exact same scenario would occur with the High Republic as well, whereby systems and worlds become dependent on a constant stream of aid from the High Republic in order to fuel its economy and provide some level of political stability. The provision of aid from the High Republic is also an element of its soft power, in which the High Republic uses aid as a way to create an image of benevolence and friendliness in order to entice more systems to join it. It holds the promise for more aid if the system in question joins the High Republic. Which also brings me back to the Jedi Order. The Jedi Order also acts as a political tool and conditional aid for the High Republic to entice more systems to join the High Republic. The Irem-Erano crisis represents an example of this case. The two worlds of Irem and Erano had long since resisted Republic membership or help, in which the local inhabitants viewed it as interference. Prior to the crisis, the Republic had a very limited presence in the system. However, once the respective monarchs of both worlds were captured by the Hutts, both worlds requested aid from the Republic, which came in the form of Jedi help. While the Jedi did engage this mission on a basis of a desire to help others, it was also recognized that a successful mission might also bridge the gap between this area and the Republic. In fact, Master Laird, a member of the mission, stated that if the mission is successful, we may even be able to open another part of the galaxy. Underlying this is a hint to a very certain type of neo-colonialism. There is a clear preference for free market economies within the High Republic, and it is laid pretty bare that the High Republic wishes to increase its influence and control by opening up previously closed systems. This is actually known as neoliberal colonialism, but this video has been pretty lengthy, and to describe what neoliberal colonialism is would require me to go on quite extensively. But what is clear is that as the High Republic, using its vast resources, attempts to open up the economies of various different worlds, it is in effect acting as a force of neo-colonialism. As such, the only way to consistently access the aid of the Jedi Order is to become a part of the High Republic and open up. and we see this form of diplomacy during the High Republic negotiations with the Dalnan delegation aboard the Steady Wing. During this negotiation, which was about the potential for the planet Dalna to join the Republic, the Dalnan ambassador was aware that if Dalna joins the Republic, they would get security and safety in their sector of the galaxy, which also suggests that they would not receive it if they decided not to join the High Republic. That being said, is the High Republic an empire? In the traditional sense, no, the High Republic is not a traditional imperial colonial power. However, it nonetheless still exhibits elements of neo-colonialism, and as such, it actually reflects more of a modern-day empire where the exertion of control involves much more subtler means. So in that sense, yes, the High Republic is actually an empire, and one that is expanding through neo-colonial means. That's all for today's video, and it has been quite a long one. I know there are a lot of political concepts in this video, so let me know what you think about it. My channel, first and foremost, is a Star Wars channel, and so I created this video as a way to make things a little bit more interesting and different. Let me know if you've enjoyed this style of a video in the comments down below. That being said, if you have any questions or even ideas for future videos, be sure to let me know as well. Make sure you like and subscribe, hit the bell icon for more notifications, and I will see you in the next video. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.